let's cross you over now to Berlin, where there's shortage of grain as well. DW's Thomas Sparrow joins us with more on this. Thomas, first of all, how big is the grain crisis where you are?
It is a clear example of how the war in Ukraine, Russia's war in Ukraine, has global consequences, not only in Russia or Ukraine's immediate neighborhood, but also further away. There are millions of tons of grains, of Ukrainian grains, stuck simply because they cannot be transported by sea. And that is affecting countries as far away as Lebanon or Libya. It's also affecting countries in sub-Saharan Africa, something that, by the way, Ukrainian President Zelensky clearly stated when he addressed not long ago the African Union. And as such, it is also becoming an international challenge for leaders, not only here in Europe, but internationally, to try and deal with this challenge. It is particularly worrying for poorer countries around the world, for developing countries around the world. It is affecting prices in many parts of the globe, and as such, it is something that leaders expect to at least partially resolve, or at least find ways of resolving, when some of them meet here in Germany, not only for this international conference on Friday, but also for the G7 that will also take place here in Germany as of Saturday and until next Tuesday.
I'm just wondering about the EU countries. What have they done so far about the situation?
Essentially, if you look at what Europe has been doing, they've been trying to find alternative routes to get those grains out of Ukraine. It is also important to stress that there is another harvest coming very soon, so this makes it a challenge that is very urgent indeed. And as part of those alternative routes, they have tried to find ways in which Ukraine's grain can be transported by land. But this presents big challenges, which include, for example, different rail systems, which also includes how to go through different countries. So there are now negotiations also in place, complex negotiations, as Ukraine's President Zelensky stated, to try and find safe corridors with which those grains could be transported. But as of now, until the war actually started, most of Ukraine's grains were transported by sea, not by land. So transporting them by land now is indeed a very serious challenge.
And we do know that there's going to be a conference on Friday. What would the discussions be focused on?
In particular, what's going to be discussed is how to guarantee supplies, how to find alternative supplies, but also alternative routes to make sure that Ukraine can continue, or at least can export its grains, also looking towards that new harvest. It is important from Germany's perspective to try and understand this as an international issue, from an international perspective, considering also that Germany is hosting the G7 only immediately after that international conference. The international conference is expected to have very high-ranking politicians, including US Secretary of State Antony Blinken, and as such, it is important to try and find those ways in which Ukraine could also export its grains. And it's important to mention that there are different opinions, different understandings as to why this is the case. Ukraine is blaming Russia on this, but Russia has obviously blamed Ukraine and blamed the West for the current problem. It is a current problem that is affecting countries around the world.
Thomas, thank you.